Hey Dynamos, it's here to read you my last Dynamo Adventure. This is the Dynamos and the Snowless Winter. What are you guys doing? It's 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Hurry up! It'd be faster if you got off. Written and illustrated by Miss Drass. This book doesn't have any pictures because I never had a chance to draw them, so you'll have to imagine what's happening in your head while I read the story. Dedicated to the Dynamos of 2013 to 14. One snowless winter, the Dynamos were fed up. Their snow graph was empty, their sleds were dusty, and the Dynamos were itching for an epic snowball fight. Mouse checked the weather for about the 100th time. "No snow in the forecast again?" yelled David. "Are you kidding me?" exclaimed Madison. "Unfortunately, no," said Lily, who had gone over to the computer to see the 10-day for herself. "I've been thinking," Ella said. "I think it's time the Dynamos took this snowless winter into their own hands." "What are you talking about, Ella?" asked Caden. "I'm talking about us helping it to snow," Ella replied. "I don't think that's possible," Addie said. "We won't know until we try," said Ella. The Dynamos all thought about it. "We're in," they all agreed. "How are we going to make it snow?" asked Ryan R. "Easy," said Emma. "All we need is rain on a really cold day." 3 days later, it was freezing outside. The Dynamos found the field day hoses and dragged them outside and started spraying everything. "What are you guys doing?" Miss Drass yelled. "Snow comes from the sky." "Oops," said Kiani. The Dynamos dragged the hoses up to the roof and continued spraying. Just then, Mrs. Hawk came walking down the sidewalk carrying important papers. Mateo realized what was about to happen and tried to warn the Dynamos, but it was too late. Splash! Freezing cold hose water drenched Mrs. Hawk and her papers. "Dynamos!" yelled Mrs. Hawk. "My office now!" "Oops," said Grace. Mrs. Hawk was not happy with the Dynamos. She took away their hose and roof privileges, which they never actually had, and their recess. "Never fear," Peyton told the Dynamos. "My snow plan will keep all our feet planted firmly on the ground." The next morning, Keelan and Caleb wheeled the giant PE fans outside. Danny plugged them in and turned them on. All of the Dynamos started throwing white feathers at the fans. "What are you doing?" asked Miss Drass. "Making fake snow," yelled Marcus over the sound of the fans. The Dynamos soon figured out that feathers do not make good snow. So did Mr. Raff. "You'll never be able to make snowballs with this," he announced. "By the way, where did you get all these feathers?" At that moment, Josh threw another handful of feathers at the fans. Except it wasn't all feathers, and it didn't hit the fan. "Ooh," Ashley moaned when she saw the yolk running down Mr. Raff's face. "Dynamos!" yelled Mr. Raff. "My office now!" Mr. Raff was not happy with the Dynamos. Fans, feathers, and eggs were permanently off limits. After cleaning up all the feathers, Messiah said, "What now?" Michaela got a big grin on her face and said, "Third time's the charm." "It better be," said Ryan M. "We haven't had recess in 2 days." "Don't worry," said Miss Drass. "This plan is going to be delicious." The next morning, all of the Dynamos were out in front of the school with snow cone makers. Miss Drass plugged them all in and turned them all on. Snow came flying out. While the Dynamos screamed with joy for a plan that finally worked, some confused first graders lined up to buy snow cones. Mr. Raff saw and heard the noise and sent everyone back to class. An hour later, he popped his head into room 412. "Turn those snow cone makers off," he said. Miss Drass sent 3 dynamos to take care of it. An hour later, Mrs. Hawk popped her head in and said, "Go turn off those snow cone makers." "Huh? We already did," said the dynamos. "Unless," said Miss Drass. The dynamos ran outside. The snow cone makers were off, but snow was falling. "We did it!" screamed the dynamos. Snow fell for 3 straight days, turning the snowless winter into the best winter ever. And this time, everyone was happy with the dynamos. The end. All right, over the weekend, friends, you need to start thinking about what's going to go in your Dynamo Adventure, which we're going to start writing next week. See you next week.